Good morning, Internet, and good morning, non-Internet. I think you have to be on the Internet unless you get the home delivery of Facebook.
The home delivery Facebook?
If you ever gotten it, it comes in a big box, and it's a lot of data. But if you're watching this on home delivery Facebook, you might be a little out of date. For everyone watching live, we're Glass River Media here in Arlington. I'm Jeff Carpenter, and with me, as always, is Ronan in the corner.
I was gonna say, how does that work? Is it gonna be like DVDs, like CDs, or like?
It's a 64,000 disc set.
Okay.
You just put them in one at a time. There was actually, I don't know how much people do this anymore, but back in your younger days, Ronan, there was metrics on an internet connection versus compare an internet transfer to a Federal Express delivery. So it's like, I need this file to be in California. If it's a 1 megabyte file, the internet's faster. If it's a 64 terabyte file, FedEx will get it there faster, right?
Interesting.
And so there's a limit or a number.
Yeah.
Like back when I was starting out, it was I don't remember, but there was definitely a number of video files where it was like, no, this is faster to put on a hard drive and ship it overnight, using delivery service. And as internet's gotten faster, that number's gone up. So now it needs to be a huge file. But back in the day, it was between like 1 and 10 gigabytes. I remember somewhere around the 2 to 5 gigabyte is where you had a conversation about, is this worth the money to overnight ship? And it's gone way up. What would you say now? I'd say that we need to be getting close to a terabyte before I'd have that conversation.
Probably.
I don't know, maybe half a terabyte.
I was gonna say it depends on where it's going to.
Yeah, it depends on your internet connection. There's a lot of factors, but no, definitely well over 1 gigabyte. But yeah, that number keeps going up, but that's still a real metric. You can compare FedEx to your internet connection, and you get a time when you do that math out.
Interesting.
Anyway, a little bit of history that becomes less and less relevant every day. Anyway, how are you, Ronan?
I'm doing pretty good, and I'm doing even better now that I just learned about that.
Yeah, we'll fill you up with one bit of knowledge every day.
Yeah, since I'm a youngin.
Speaking of today, we have. We kind of have two guests. I don't know. We have one guest, but kind of two. If everyone who watched last week remembers Steve Cooper from Acceleration, he's back. And you know why he's back? Because he's our neighbor. It's a real short walk. So we like having Steve in. But Steve, you brought a friend today. Do I have that right?
Yes. And as you know, our sister company to Acceleration, which we covered last week on the Glass River Media podcast, videocast, this week, we've got Nextup Solutions, and we have none other than Nextup's most senior agilist and coach and trainer. And if you don't know what that is, you're about to learn because you're going to explore all of that.
I ask a lot of questions because this is definitely out of my wheelhouse. Ronan, can you bring our guest up on the television?
Yep, here he comes.
All right, Mac, can you hear us? Hello, I think so because you're waving.
Hi there. Yes.
So
good to be here.
Nice to meet you. Okay, I think Steve's gonna bounce so we can have a conversation. Thank you for coming in and bringing someone with you.
Absolutely. Have a great conversation, Mac and Jeff. It was great being here once again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, Mac, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks. How are you?
Good. I put on a suit. Actually, I put on a suit for no reason, and now I'm feeling good. Sometimes I do the show in a t-shirt, and you came just really dressed. If I had done t-shirt today, I think I would have felt a little bad.
Yes, this has become my de facto brand.
Now, is this just for the show, or is this like all Zoom? Are you just like really professional on all Zoom calls?
This is actually just how I teach and coach all the time, it comes out of one of my coaching techniques when I'm in a space and I'm working with teams. One of the things you need to do is reinforce that I'm not supposed to be there forever. Like, my job is to help them make themselves better, at which point I can start to leave, as opposed to me needing to be a permanent fixture that they always have to come to for answers. So it helps to distinguish yourself in a lot of ways. And one of the ways I used to do that is just by dressing differently. I used to dress down a level. So if people in that space typically wore suits and ties, I would wear jeans and a sport coat, but no tie. And that worked for me for a long time until I spent a while coaching at U.S. courts, which was one of the few federal agencies I worked in that takes the U.S. federal dress code really seriously.
I bet.
Not allowed to dress down there, so I had to go up. And then I started wearing three-piece suits and bow ties and pocket squares and silly socks.
And it stuck.
Yeah, and it just became my brand, partly also because for some reason people just innately trust people who wear bow ties. It's just easier.
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought of that, but I really am thinking about it. If somebody came up to me on the street and like was wearing a bow tie and just started talking, I would listen to that person. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna assume something important is going on.
I think the bigger thing is that no one ever is threatening you about time, right? So
it's the opposite of a leather jacket. So tell me about where you got to where you are. What is your history? You said in our pre-conversation, you said you're a criminologist, and that was not something I was expecting you to say. So, like, tell me about that. Where did you start from?
People often don't really know what that is, and the short answer is it's like a subset of sociology. So, studying kind of crime and relations to society. I am a crime geographer by training, which means I spent my master's and PhD doing a lot of statistical analysis and a lot of geographic analysis, so a lot of mapping tools. And like a lot of people, I got really sick of it as I was finishing the doctorate. And so I was looking to pull the eject lever as I was finishing up. And it turns out I have all these really useful geospatial skills and statistical skills, which landed me down in DC doing geospatial analysis for government agencies. I did that for a while, and then I started doing that using agile approaches. So we were building geospatial applications using approaches like Scrum and Kanban and things like that. So I started off that journey as a product owner, which means the person who's most responsible for figuring out what is the product even going to be, who are our customers, and what does value mean. And then I stepped into the role of Scrum Master, which is kind of a team level coach. And then I stepped into full-time agile coaching, which means instead of doing it on teams, helping organizations do it. And I did that for a bunch of years, ultimately becoming the director of the first Agile Center of Excellence at one of the gigantic government-focused system integrator companies in town. And for most of that time, I was also pursuing becoming a certified Scrum trainer because I really liked this Agile stuff, and teaching was kind of the only thing I missed from academia. That is a really difficult thing to do, actually, becoming a certified Scrum trainer. There's less than 300 of us in the entire world, and we're kind of the most...
That few.
Yeah, the most highly vetted Agile experts and trainers really out there in the world. So I finally did that in 2018, and since then, I mostly just get to do that all the time. Teach classes and make grown-ups play silly games, and sometimes I still get to do some coaching, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So here, Ronan, put up camera 2, because I want to just have a conversation with the big TV. Makes my life easier. So I'm surprised there's so few Scrum Masters, because it is something I've heard of. And
well, there's lots and lots of certified Scrum Masters in the world.
Okay, but like
very few people who are allowed to create them.
Got it. Is that an acronym? I've heard of it, but I don't know what it stands for or means. What?
Yeah. So Scrum is not actually an acronym, though often people assume it is. It's a word that comes from rugby. Did you ever play any rugby?
No, I have not.
Yeah, it's not a lot of popular salience in the U.S. It's a lot like American football, but for grown-ups. There's none of those silly pads or helmets involved. A lot more alcohol on the back end to make up for the lack of pads.
That's what I know of it, yes.
The founders of Scrum, a couple of guys named Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, were building out what would become an agile method of building software with small teams. Agile is kind of this umbrella term that refers to a bunch of different frameworks. And for a long time, they didn't have a good name for their framework. And then one day, one of them read this article in the Harvard Business Review saying the problem with product development is companies handle it too much like a relay race, where things get handed off across all these silo skill set departments. And it would be better if they handled it like a rugby team in a scrum, where I would have all these people together in one small team. We'd have all the skills necessary to get it done. And so they read that article and they said, I like this metaphor. That sounds like what we're doing already. Let's call our approach Scrum. Okay. I don't think, being Americans also, that Ken and Jeff understood that they were going to spend the next 30 years explaining that it's not an acronym. But
I have realized I'm going to spend the next 30 years explaining why I named my company Glass River Media, because everyone always asks, and the honest truth there is I wanted something that was unique when you Google it. We've come up with better stories than that, but that's the honest truth is it's unique. And I will say Scrum Master is very unique. I don't think you're competing with a lot of other.
Yeah.
So
at least my about to be fourth grader doesn't tell people I'm a Scum Master anymore.
that was probably the first couple of years, right?
Yes.
So tell me about Nextup Solutions. when you are you when you meet someone, are they coming to you and saying like, here's what we need? Or are you telling them what they need? Kind of what's the sort of process if somebody comes to Nextup? Who's walking in the door?
So we really are getting folks kind of from all sides of that continuum of their agile journey. We get people who are in industries that are still brand new to adopting agile approaches, at this point maybe a bit kind of late in the curve, and you see that a lot in industries like healthcare, IT, in finance, for example, and insurance. I think are a little later to the game. Or you get folks that have been doing this already for 20 years at this point. They know exactly what they're looking for, and they're wanting a little help to get better. So it's really that full range.
Okay.
We get people who are on the training side looking for credentials because they're going to help them acquire a new position somewhere, or because they want to get smart on the credentials because they're trying to hire folks and they want to know what these things mean. Those are typically what you see in our foundation level classes, things like Certified Scrum Master, Certified Scrum Product Owner. For our higher level credentials, the advanced level, the professional level, and some of our later courses like in our Kanban system and things like that, you get folks that have been doing this for a while, and what they're really looking for is either increasing their skill sets and adding to their toolboxes, or they're looking for that confirmation that they really, in fact, are seasoned professional experts who are not just someone who just took a class and they got the vocabulary.
Yeah,
they're actually very experienced.
Okay, makes sense. Everyone I've ever met that's either coaching or coaching adjacent, they really seem to love their jobs. I don't think it's a job that you begrudgingly do. There's some people that go and sit in the cubicle all day and they're just like, I got to earn money. I don't think you survive in your field that way. Am I accurately describing you? Do you love what you do?
I do love what I do. And I think you're right in that you kind of have to. It's very difficult to just sort of treat it as drudgery if you are not really into it. And the biggest fundamental thing and why, so Nextup Solutions really provides two areas of service. We have our certified agile training side, which I've mentioned already, mm-hmm. and then we have our coaching services side. And the thing that makes this so good is that on the coaching side is we really love people, and you really have to. One of the big revolutions that all of the agile frameworks like Scrum and Kanban brought to the table was this recognition that people aren't cogs. They're not just widgets that you can plug and play. There's a reason that things work differently in every team because every team is a different combination of people. So you really have to have that empathetic, humanistic mindset to be able to function as a coach. You have to really enjoy kind of getting in there and getting a bit messy and helping people deal with thornier issues like conflict, for example, on teams. One of the things we're always showing people is if there's more than one person on the team, conflict is inevitable. Like we don't coach to avoid conflict. We coach to have constructive patterns of conflict rather than destructive patterns. So it's that kind of nuance and understanding you really have to have to be able to flourish in this role.
In your and everything you do, what's a thorn in your side? What's something? I know you love your job, but what's a day where you don't love your job? What's that look like for you?
Not understanding the value of core coaching roles is a big issue for us. In the Scrum framework, for example, you have a person on every team called a Scrum Master. That's really what they do all day. They're focused on just making that team the best possible Scrum team they can be and coaching the organization around them to be a place that's great at hosting Scrum teams. Unfortunately, these days, especially as agile approaches have become table stakes in a lot of industries, you get organizations that don't really understand the value of someone like a Scrum Master or an agile coach. They just think that these are people who schedule meetings, nag people to update tools. And what that means is that often they will fulfill that role in the most meaningless kind of box checky kind of way. And that generally means someone who is not necessarily an employee, they're a subcontractor, they have maybe even less professional status than that, which generally means they're not in a position to tell the truth when they need to, which is one of the most kind of fundamental things.
It's got to be full communication. That's no, that makes sense. I find that pretty much anything that you find annoying, usually means you need to just be better educated about it. And there's exceptions. There's just some annoying things out there for no reason. But yeah, I'm always interested in like this thing's causing me strife. Well, maybe there's a reason for that. I should examine it.
Sure, absolutely.
I guess that kind of is what you delve into. Tell me a little. We talked to Steve last week about acceleration, and he gave us his perspective. But what's the link between Nextup and acceleration? What's the sister companies or cousins, or how did this all work?
Yeah, I think siblings is a good way to think of it. So the acceleration side of our house, I mean, that's our software development practice and this professional workforce development kind of entity that does some really amazing work. Our side, on the Nextup Solutions side, we're teaching people how to be a part of or create amazing teams. We are coaching organizations to establish amazing teams and embody agile mindset. So that's really helping other organizations learning to do some of the amazing things that we already do internally on the acceleration side. And so, pushing out those approaches and really coaching and fostering those agile mindsets. That's the big difference. That's what we do on the Nextup side.
I see. Okay. Last question. Well, I guess I need to ask you a question for my own sake. Are you involved in like the sales here at all, or is it just like somebody else is doing that and you're going to companies? Like, what's your role in getting clients? Is that part of your life, or do you just have people? So
in addition to being a trainer and coach, I'm also the vice president of our agile services sector within Nextup, which means I'm generally also shaping opportunities with customers, trying to understand their needs, trying to put together an overall approach of solutions that's going to really help them get to where they want to go. So yeah, I'm definitely involved, client facing and kind of that sales support, all of that stuff.
Okay, so then the question I wanted to ask that I was not sure, but you are the right person, is what's your workflow there when you meet someone? Like, obviously, here's the weird thing: when you're selling bubblegum, you're like, here's bubblegum, do you want to buy it? You don't meet someone and then they're calling you the next day to hire you. So like, what in your mind is kind of the journey? What's the customer journey once they meet you? Not before they meet you, but once they meet you, where do they go from meeting you at a party, like there's a guy with a bow tie, to them becoming a customer? Because I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's not a 24-hour process, right? What goes into that?
Yeah, it's often not a 24-hour process. And of course, it really depends on, are we talking about public sector or are we talking about private and nonprofit?
Well, you can flip a coin. I'm interested in insight and challenges. What's the challenge for you, and how do you solve it?
So the biggest thing is, one of the first things we have to do is engage with them to understand, what do the words mean when they say them? Because at this point, lots of people have this agile vocabulary to some extent. So they know the word Scrum, or they know something about estimating with story points, or I don't know, whatever it is. And so they'll often say, well, I have this need, we're looking for training, we're looking for a coach around this area. And one of the very first things you have to do is figure out, what are you actually doing and what is your actual need? And then shaping vocabulary around with them. Once we've sorted that out, and that doesn't usually take more than a discussion or two, often from there, the challenge is working with them to find budget for the support, to figure out, very, very often the people who have the most kind of pressing need, who are closest to the work, don't really have a way to acquire support, whether it's coaching or training. And then what we're trying to do is help them make the case often up their chain that, if we spend a little bit of money on training, or if we get some coaching support, we're going to get all this added productivity. We're getting all this added value out of our teams. And sometimes that's kind of a hard case to make.
It's interesting. You kind of start in the same place. You're using different language than I do, but you started off by saying getting them to understand what they need. And what we always, in the marketing world, the two questions we always ask when someone walks in the door is, who are you talking to and what do you want them to do? And those sound like simple questions, but they turn out to be very difficult questions. And you said different language because you're a little bit different industry, but it sounds like you starting from the same challenge point, which is I think half of our job as business runners is always like making people understand what they need, and that always feels like the biggest part of the job to me. It sounds like that is a big part for you too.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely it is. And then, of course, when we're talking about government work, you have the added implication of I have a customer who wants to get to us, and now we have to figure out what is a legal contractual method for them.
Yeah,
to get
that,
to us.
yes.
That adds an entire layer of complexity on top of everything.
I'm
else.
familiar with those. We're a small enough company. What we tend to do is say, who are you already contracting with? We will sub under them.
Yeah.
That's certainly a way to go about it, but there's lots of paths.
Yep.
I want to thank you for being on, but before you go, Ronan, who you saw earlier, he likes to share something. We have these big conversations at the table here, and Ronan, we want to bring him in at the end. So Ronan has an article, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, Mac. And to be clear, I don't know what he's about to show us, so we'll see if this is in any way relevant to your life. All right, Ronan, what do we got today?
So today, let me see.
You can just throw it in program.
Oh, that works then.
Yeah, because he's already on the TV.
Oh yeah,
so let's
that
leave
is
him.
that is true. Okay, so we got this.
All right. Here, scroll it down a little. You need to read it for me. My eyes are not that good. What's going on here?
Oh,
There, I can see it. Okay. $127,000 dog nanny job listing pulled after flood of applicants. Okay, so this is a real supply and demand issue. This is on the far end of the curve, isn't it? Tell me what's a dog nanny, Ronan? Is this someone just babysitting a dog?
basically, this is someone that brings like the dog to their vet appointments, to like feeds the dog, takes care of the dog, teaches the dog tricks and everything like that. So,
All right. So, Mac, I don't know, in your industry, are you paying $127,000 for dog nannies at Nextup Solutions? Because I can assure you, we are not here at Glass River.
Last I knew, we didn't have an official company dog for some reason, but yeah, as someone who had dogs for a really long time, I think that would be a fantastic first job for, say, a high school person with a car or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's so Ronan, what's the news article about? You're saying they got too many applicants? I would believe that.
because they were asking $127,000 a year for this. And yeah, they got so many applicants because of the price and everything. Well, I mean,
Is it real, or is this some kind of like internet prank?
so to my knowledge, this is real. And one of the other purposes of the job that I didn't mention before is you have to travel with the dog internationally and nationally as well.
Okay, this is
So,
making more sense.
yeah.
This is like Hollywood star handler, but for the dog.
Yep.
No, I could see that if you're going to hire someone to fly internationally with your dog, you're not going to want a certain caliber of person.
Yep. And $127,000 is a pretty healthy
Yeah.
wage or salary.
Well,
So,
okay, we're
yeah.
not.
Almost let you pay rent in DC.
That's close to rent. Can you get an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, or a dog sitter? Take your pick. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Mac. For everyone watching, I hope you learned something. I definitely did. I don't know if people watching are learning things, or they're just. I assume people are watching us on mute and just. We're a screensaver, but assuming anyone is listening, that is a lot of information. So yes, I'm going to have to study some more, Mac, because you gave me a lot of keywords, but I definitely am not an expert at anything you do. But I'm glad people like you exist, because I can't do it. There's a very long list of careers that I'm glad exist because I can't do it. I'm putting you on that list.
Oh, well, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes. No, I don't know if it means anything. I think list of things I can't do is so long as to be meaningless. But I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing, and
Sure.
always love to see new faces, even if virtual. You know what? I didn't ask you at the front of the show. Where are you physically? I know you're not here in Virginia. Where are you?
These days, I am in Michigan. So
Michigan,
I am,
okay.
Near Ann Arbor, if that means anything to viewers. That's
Yeah.
where the University of Michigan is. So
I bet your weather is very beautiful there right now. This is the perfect time of year for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly been pretty nice. The last few days have been pretty rainy and humid, but other than that, it's not bad for June. So,
Awesome. Well, you enjoy Michigan. We're going to step outside and enjoy some smog in a minute. But thanks for joining us. And for everyone else, come back tomorrow. We're getting guests in here every day. And it's always someone just a totally different fields. We are not trying to push one particular thing. We're kind of a variety show in that way. So thanks for joining us online. Thanks for joining us, Mac. And we will see everyone else tomorrow.
Bye.
everybody.